Respiratory system. I will understand how the respiratory system functions to maintain a healthy body. So our respiratory system is responsible for gas exchange through breathing. You'll remember that cells need certain things in order to stay alive. These include oxygen, water, and nutrients. And the respiratory system is responsible for getting oxygen from the air into our body. We also need to remove wastes, including carbon dioxide and metabolic wastes, and the respiratory system is involved in removing the gas, carbon dioxide, from our blood and releasing it into the air that we can then breathe out. So the respiratory system, these are all the different structures involved. Up the top here we have the entry points for the respiratory system, so the nose, the nasal cavity and the mouth. These have multiple functions. The nasal cavity also detects smells. It warms the air as it comes in. It moistens the air so that we have, when the air reaches our lungs, there's not a sort of cold, dry shock to the lungs. And as we breathe in, the air travels to the back of our throat and down through this tube here, passing the larynx, which is our voice box, which has our vocal cords. The trachea is the name of the windpipe, and it actually passes in front of the esophagus. And you can feel little ridges, which are C-shaped pieces of cartilage, which help to hold the structure of the tube so it doesn't collapse when we're breathing in. Cartilage is the same substance that's found in the tip of your nose and in your ears to hold their shape, so it makes sense you've got this structure that will hold the shape of your trachea. And then the tube reaches a branching point, left and right here, which are the bronchus tubes, or if you're doing plural, they're the bronchi, and one goes to each lung. So the right bronchi here, right bronchus here going to the right lung, and the left bronchus going to the left lung. And these tubes continue to branch and become smaller. We call them bronchioles. And eventually they end up at sort of dead end bits, which are little circular pouches. They look a little bit like empty grapes, a little bunch of empty grapes, and these are called alveoli. And this is where the lungs come into really close contact with capillaries from the blood system, so from the circulatory system, and gas exchange takes place here. This diagram also includes a sheet of muscle at the bottom of the lungs, the diaphragm, whose job it is to help us breathe. Let's have a think about breathing. On the left-hand side, we're talking here about inspiration, and on the other side, expiration. So inspiration is breathing in, and expiration is breathing out. There are a few things that happen. We have a muscle called the diaphragm at the bottom of our lungs, and when it contracts, that muscle flattens. That's going to increase the surface area. That is going to increase the total volume of our lung space, our chest, which is going to cause the lungs to expand. And at the same time that is happening, the muscles, the intercostal muscles that exist in between our ribs, they contract, and that causes the ribs to move up and out, which also increases the volume of our lungs. As the volume of the lungs increases, the air pressure inside the lungs drops and air rushes in from outside. To breathe out, our diaphragm relaxes, which allows it to return to its dome shape, which squeezes our lungs. That's going to force some air out, and at the same time that that's happening, the intercostal muscles relax and the ribs move down and in, which also squeezes our lungs. The air pressure inside our lungs rises and air is forced out. So if you look at this little wiggly line, this is somebody breathing. Breathing out and in and out and in. And that is our normal breathing. That's called our tidal volume. Every now and then we might do a big breath in and a big breath out. That is our vital capacity, the total amount that we can breathe in and breathe out. There's always a bit of air left in our lungs, that's the residual volume. So our total lung capacity is bigger than the amount that we can breathe in and out at any one time. And that total lung capacity will change depending on how big you are, what kind of sports you do, if you play a musical instrument, and other health factors too. Now let's think about gas exchange. We've got to get oxygen into our blood circulation and carbon dioxide out. This is the alveolus at the end of those tubes in the lungs, and it has a very large surface area, but it's only 1 cell thick. It's very delicate, so it's nice and thin. You'll see this dotted line here is showing a layer of moisture on the inside of the alveoli. The oxygen will dissolve in the moisture and then move across into the blood capillaries, which are very close to the alveoli and full of red blood cells to pick up the oxygen. When they arrive at the lungs, they're also got a lot of carbon dioxide dissolved in the plasma. So that carbon dioxide can leave the blood circulatory system, diffuse into the air inside the alveoli, and then we can exhale and take that extra carbon dioxide out of the body. So in summary, efficient gas exchange happens if we have a large surface area which is thin, moist, well ventilated by us breathing with a good blood supply. And any disease that causes one of those features to change will affect our ability to get oxygen into our body, carbon dioxide out, and have an effect on our overall body function and health.